Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start so that everyone has a chance to enjoy their Saturday afternoon. I'm Jabar Shumate. I'm Vice President of Community Convening and Social Justice with the Oklahoma City Urban League. And the Urban League, in partnership with organizations like TEAM and organizations like Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma, in partnership with Loves, with partnership with Molina Healthcare, with Dobson Technologies, and the Oklahoma Black Justice Fund, have been working very diligently to bring to our community the opportunity to, for those who have been justice involved, to look at what it might mean to get your records expunged or to go through the expungement process. The process itself is very long process, and for many of you all who've been in the process know somewhat difficult to understand. So we invited Mr. Ed Wunch. He's a leading attorney in Oklahoma to really join us today and walk us through what that process looks like. And as well, we have your leaders, your community leaders here to, just really join in this conversation about what it means to go through the expungement process. And so I'm gonna, without any further ado, introduce to you all our County Commissioner, Ms. Carrie Blumert, and just allow her to say a few things about her work and about as well what she feels this could do for folks in the community, followed by Representative AJ Pittman.
Thank you, Jabar. Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Blumert. I am our District 1 County Commissioner here in Oklahoma County. So I represent Central Oklahoma City, Northeast Oklahoma City, Midwest City, Del City, and then all the way up into Luther and Jones. So I have a very unique and diverse district. And part of what makes me so passionate about this work, and especially the work that the Urban League is doing, is that our county jail, you all are probably very familiar with the problems that jail has had and continues to have. And we are working diligently to try to fix those. But in the meantime, anything we can do as county government, and you'll hear in a minute from Representative Pittman with state government, anything we can do as your representatives to help you expunge your record, if that is possible, I am all for it. And anything we can do to connect you all with the resources that you need, we are here for you. The Urban League has done an incredible job of reaching out to the community and making sure that people who may need their record expunged have the resources that they need and have someone to walk through the process with them. Jabar said a minute ago that getting your record expunged can be very complicated. It can be very frustrating. People often don't explain the process to you, and you have to kind of figure it out on your own. And we don't want that for you. We want you to feel supported in this process, and so that you can hopefully get it done and move on. There are a lot of community partners that I think want to be involved in this work. I know the Diversion Hub, if you all are not familiar with the Diversion Hub, they help folks who are justice involved work through their case, if their case is still ongoing. And then Jabar mentioned TEAM. There are a lot of community resources out there, and I'm very happy that each of you are on this call. I see people joining as I'm speaking. So thank you for coming today. I think this is one of the first steps to jump on this call and say, I'm ready to do this. And so we are really, really proud of you. And hopefully I will get to meet you all in person someday. But until then, I am really proud to be a part of this work and proud to help you all and get you guys connected with what you need and hopefully get your record expunged. So thank you to the Urban League for doing this work. It is so important. And I will put my email in the chat. If you all have any questions for me, or if you want to complain about the jail, or if you want to tell me about your experience in the jail, I welcome that. I am always looking for people to tell their story if they're comfortable with that. So I will put my email in the chat. So thank you all so much. And I will be on here, but I will turn off my camera. So thanks, Jabar.
Thanks, Commissioner. And now I want to hear from Representative A.J. Pittman. She represents House District 99, and she is like a little niece to me. I've watched her grow. Her mom and I served in the Oklahoma House and Senate together, and so she's just going to share a few words. She's been partnering with us on this venture. Representative Pittman.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here with you today. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I worked at the Oklahoma County Jail, so I have seen firsthand from inmates' perspective, people who are being detained there, people who are awaiting trial, those types of things, people coming in just for tickets, people coming in for different reasons, but how they've been treated. Also, what the officers go through, what the nurses go through, what the mental health staff go through. I've seen firsthand. I remember the smell from walking in there. So I know what it's like to be in that facility. And it is not something that we want for our community. And so we are happy that we are taking a stand to make changes there. It needs to happen, and it has been long overdue. But reentry is also something that is important to me. If you remember, our state has been #1 for incarceration in both men and women for many, many years. And with the commutations that have happened recently, it behooves us to focus on reentry, right? We want to make sure that anyone that has been justice involved from any myriad of things are able to live a whole life when they are finished. And we treat them with respect, and we allow them and give them the tools to do what they need to do to be productive members of society, or to take care of their families, or to reach their goals. And a lot of times the state does not focus on those things. And that's something that I have been trying to do by introducing pieces of legislation at the state level that would create a pilot program with DOC to create public-private partnerships so that we can make sure people who are re-entering society have a holistic approach and have the tools that they need. So that goes a little bit beyond what the Urban League is doing, but the Urban League has been in our community for many years, and they have been helping with a myriad of things, whether it's workforce development, whether it's their annual back to school giveaway, whether it's a health fair, or whether it's community forums. The Urban League and the Urban League Young Professionals, you have the Urban League Guild. There's so many ways where you can get involved with the Urban League, in so many different ways they have impacted our community over the years. And this is just another step in what they are doing to make sure we have what we need in Northeast Oklahoma City. So I'm excited that Attorney Banks is working on this. I'm excited that former State Senator Shumate is working on this, because you have heavy hitters that are working on your behalf to get these things done. They are partnering with state agencies. They have made the connections that they need so that we can get through this process. And I'm just happy to be able to help and be a part in any way that I can, so that I can make sure not just my constituents, but all Oklahomans get an opportunity to thrive in whatever way they want to. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to our office. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat as well, and I will be with them along this journey. So whatever they need from me or my office, I will be willing to help as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Representative Pittman. Before I introduce Attorney Ed Wunch, I want to make sure to give a shout out to my colleagues from the Urban League. I see Dee Liggins here on the Zoom, and as well Olivet Brothers, who you may see her name and actually see her name and see me, or there may be some situations in that case because she let us use her Zoom. I work with a really great team at the Urban League, and nothing happens on behalf of our community by any one of us individually, but because it's such a dynamic group of people that work as a team at the Urban League, we just get it done. And so I got to give a shout out to my staff as well. Dr. Valerie Thompson is our president and CEO. Many of y'all know our senior vice president, Shani Rashidi, and then as well, a young man that kind of helped me through, because I am very challenged at technology. But our digital manager, Anthony Holloway, has just been a great partner with us. Without any further ado, and before I introduce Ed, after Ed, Lorenzo Banks, who's been working with the Urban League and is our coordinating attorney on expungements, will talk to you about next steps. So let me go ahead and introduce Ed Wunch. He's a staff attorney with Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma. He joined Legal Aid in 2016, working in partnership with reentry programs in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. Mr. Wunch focuses on the reduction of fines and fees in criminal cases, expungements, unemployment, and several other areas of law. He is also chair of the Oklahoma Bar Association's Law Day Committee. Mr. Wunch is a graduate of the University of California, Los Angeles, and the University of California, Irvine School of Law. I want to say before I bring Ed forward that really I got his name through one of our other team members. Megan Taylor's at the Diversion Hub, has been working with Lorenzo and I, but also Francie. And Francie, I'm gonna pause on saying the last name because I respect you, so I just don't want to butcher it, and I got to work on it before I do something like that. But I want to say Francie. Her last name starts with the E. She's at Team. She is the legal counsel there at Team, and this would not happen without her. So I wanted to make sure I know she's on to give her a big shout out. So without any further ado, Ed, please join us.
Thank you so much, Jabar, and thank you to Representative Pittman, to Commissioner Blumert. The number of people involved in this project is tremendous. The Urban League looking at putting together expungement clinic, I think targeting June 6th, if I have that right. But mine is here. Expungements are very powerful, and I feel like these are some of the most important cases I get to work on, and I'm really happy to work on them. I'm going to peel back the curtain for you today. We're probably going to, I call it basics, but we're probably going to get a little leads. I want to warn you up front here that don't get discouraged by this. A lot of this stuff is things that your attorney is going to worry about. But the challenge can be, of course, is that your attorney says, hey, you don't qualify yet, or there's this barrier or something, and you may wonder what that means. You can look back at some materials and look back at some of the information I gave you. Oh, this is what I was talking about back then. The other thing I wanted, for people that qualify for expungement, go ahead and lay out a couple of other opportunities that get you able to qualify for expungement in the future, or other things you can do. Because again, expungement is very powerful, but it's not the only thing out there. So I really want to go ahead and lay all that out for you. So with that, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Everyone see that right there?
We're good.
Perfect. Okay. So if I can get things oriented there. There we go. So with that, first off, of course, I'm a lawyer. I have to give you disclaimers. So every case is different. If you have specific questions about your situation, you're going to want to talk to an attorney. And this presentation is not meant to provide you with individual legal advice for your case, and it doesn't inform an attorney-client relationship. And the information I'm giving here is specific to Oklahoma. In addition, I'm going to try to leave some questions, room for questions at the end. To clarify, I want to help everyone, but in this format, I probably can't get to everyone. And additionally, I can't keep anything you share here confidential, just because of the nature of the format. I also probably won't be able to give you very specific legal advice because I'm not going to have your case in front of me, your OSBI report, documents, but I'll try to answer as much as I can. I want to be as helpful as I can. And lastly, just to clarify, you need further after this, again, out to the Urban League to see if they might be able to assist you with an expungement, or applying for services through legal aid. Either myself or another attorney at legal aid would consider whether we have the resources to represent you. If legal aid can help you, our services are free. We may pass on the court costs, like a filing fee, to you, but we're not charging you any attorneys for putting $1 in my pocket. We're here to help as much as we can. We do have some income limitations, mainly for helping people, but we try to help as many people as we can. So with that, let's get to the important stuff. So here's the agenda for today. First thing I want to talk about is some subtle differences in criminal records, because even before thinking about an expungement, it's important that you understand your criminal record. To understand, do you have felony convictions? Do you have misdemeanor convictions? That can be confusing. So I'm going to explain some of that. Then I'm going to move on to explaining a couple of different types of expungements. One's a little bit easier than the other. And then lastly, you don't need a pardon to get an expungement. But if you can't otherwise get expungement, pardon might open that door. So I want to introduce some of the things there, since that might be an avenue to qualify otherwise for an expungement. So trivia question here, and I'll warn you up front, it's a trick question. So let's say, this is based on a scenario I had early on in my career here at Legal Aid. I pled guilty to domestic assault and battery, and I received probation. That's my only criminal case, and I'm applying for a job, and my employer asked me the following questions on the application. Have I ever been convicted of a crime? And have I ever been convicted of a felony? How do I answer those questions? And like I said, it's a trick question here because based on that, there's not enough information. So for example, did you receive a deferred or a suspended sentence? And then also domestic assault and battery can be a felony or it can be a misdemeanor. And so that's really important to go ahead and understand what the records are out there so that you can answer questions like that accurately. Here we go. The quick takeaway, deferred sentences are not convictions. I'm going to repeat that again. Deferred sentences are not convictions. Yes, you pled guilty, but the judge decided not to convict you yet. Instead, you got probation. Maybe you have to do random drug testing. Maybe you have to report to a probation officer. Maybe you don't have to do any of that. You just have to not get another case before the end of your deferred. But bottom line, while you're on that deferred sentence, that case is not a conviction. If you comply with the terms of your deferred sentence, it never becomes a conviction. If you comply, the DA could ask to extend your sentence, and that could result in either a suspended sentence or jail or prison time. Again, if the judge decides to accelerate your sentence, you would get the opportunity to contest that as well. But again, deferred sentences are not convictions. The scenario I described earlier, someone had a deferred sentence and they were saying, yes, they had a conviction. No, they didn't. And I'm worried I might have missed out on job opportunities and that because they were saying they had a conviction. Some employers are going to get on those questions though, and they'll ask pled guilty or no contest. If they ask you that question, it's going to be yes, because you have to plead guilty or plead no contest to get the deferred sentence, and then that goes away. We'll get to that in a little bit. But again, read those questions carefully, because it's possible that if they ask you if you've been convicted, you may not have to disclose a deferred sentence. Deferreds are different than suspended sentences. Suspended sentences are convictions. With that, again, suspended sentence, if you comply with the terms of your suspended sentence, there's no additional jail or prison time. If you don't comply, then the DA can ask to revoke your suspended sentence, and that could result in additional jail or prison time. Then again, we've got this wonderful tool, OSCN here, where you can look up everyone's cases. But I caution you on relying on whether it's a CM or a CF case. I think I've gotten some.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So I would caution you just looking at OSCN, whether it's a CM or a CF. If it's a CM, that's only going to be a misdemeanor. But CF, that just means originally filed as a felony. It doesn't mean that a conviction in that case is actually a felony. In most cases, it probably will be, but you could be in a scenario where maybe the DA with your plea decided to dismiss all the felony charges and you just pled to a misdemeanor. Or you could have a felony conviction, but maybe you served a little bit of time. Again, you need to look at the actual case. You can't just look at CM or CF. In general as well, just to describe the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony, generally misdemeanors are punishable by up to a year in jail, sometimes not even that. And then felonies would be more than a year. So that's the distinction there. That being said, again, because you served 6 months, that it was definitely a misdemeanor, you could have pled to something or been convicted of something and only received of 6 months on a felony. Again, these are the things that you want to make sure you understand before your employers and things like that. Lastly here, OCN's not 100% accurate. OSCN docket entries are usually filled out by court clerks, and court clerks are not lawyers. They have pretty limited training compared with lawyers.
OCN is not 100% accurate.
Yeah, and so with that, it's for the most part accurate, but with that, we have one of the better court clerk's offices in Oklahoma County. But I've still seen some inaccurate information. Ultimately, what controls your case is the actual judgment and sentence that's filed in it, the actual documents that are filed in the case. And it's possible to get incorrect things on OSCN corrected. Again, for the most part, it's accurate, but I just wanted to highlight that it's not 100% accurate. And again, court clerks are not lawyers, and so they may have a procedure with doing something that just a judge or a lawyer hasn't come in and corrected it yet. So instead, what expungement attorneys are usually going to rely on is your OSBI record, as a starting point at least. This catches cases where maybe the court clerk mistyped your name, or arrests that never resulted in charges, or municipal cases that aren't on OSCN. All law enforcement agencies are supposed to report arrest information, conviction, charge information to OSBI, for OSBI to keep your report updated. One of the things that you get from an OSBI report that's helpful for people like me when we're looking at an expungement is when I'm filing an expungement case, I have to notify the agency that arrested you. On this report, I can see the arresting agency was the police department for the village. Additionally, it lets me know just very quickly what the summary of the case there. It says pled not guilty, case dismissed, and it'll give me the date happened for when I'm calculating waiting periods. I've seen OSB reports be inaccurate as well. Ultimately look back at the original case, but it gives a really good concise summary, and it's a lot better than OSCN in that regard. So that's why, again, most expungement attorneys are going to want to take a look at your OSBI record. I would say that OSBI reports tend to be more accurate in my experience, but they do, as time goes on, they can be a little less accurate for years. Definitely when we start getting before 2000 and things like that, I've seen things missing there and things like that, but it's a good starting point. So how do you get your OSBI report? You can go to OSBI and request a report. It's $15. You can also go online to get that. As I said, it's a starting point for many expungement lawyers. It's pretty quick to get it. Additionally, this is where your background check information comes from. If a lawyer asks a private company for a background check on you and it has criminal information on it, probably at the beginning of the line there, the way that information got on your background check with the private company is not because they were skimming OSCN. It's probably because they pulled your OSBI report. And again, this is public information, but you can get your own for $15 there. And again, those private companies, they have to pay for it too. With that, again, one of the things that this helps you with is that it helps lawyers see the subtle differences on your cases. It'll tell them whether you have a deferred or a suspended, and it gives a quick summary there. With that, before we move on from criminal records, if you could take two takeaways here, I would suggest understand your record to explain it to employers. Deferred sentences are not convictions unless they're accelerated. And get an OSBI report if you're considering an expungement. Going back to that employer piece real quick here, even if you don't get an expungement, understanding your records and thinking about how you're going to explain it is probably one of the best things that you can do before you wind up confronted with that information. They're job developers I've talked to about this stuff. They're probably better to explain it. But when it comes time to explain your criminal record, you want to know the facts of what happened. Did you get deferred, suspended? Was it a felony, misdemeanor? You want to know that. But beyond that, I would focus on what happened in that case, what you think the court did wrong, what the cops did wrong. I'm not disputing the fact that bad things could have happened to you that led you to having this record. I'm not disputing that at all, but explaining it to the employer, one of the more useful things that you can do is talk about things that have happened since then. Are you volunteering? You helping out your mom maybe? Going ahead and taking care of your kids? Talking about the positive things that have happened since dealing with criminal record. Get the focus off of the criminal record and talk about all the positive things that you're doing. And so again, understand your record because you want to be able to explain it factually, but move on very quickly and start talking about the positive things you're doing. Now moving on, first type of expungement I'm going to talk about today is a deferred sentence expungement. So after completion of a deferred sentence, it's pretty easy to get that deferred sentence expunged. Couple of caveats on that. All your court costs, fines, restitution, everything has to be paid on the case. It's possible that your deferred sentence can expire. They're not trying to send you to jail or prison over it, but you can't get it expunged until everything's paid off on the case. And then also, DAs sometimes like to wait until towards the end of your deferred sentence before they file an application to accelerate. As long as they file that application before your deferred sentence expires, it can still be considered. So bottom line is here, your deferred sentence expires, there's no pending application to accelerate. At that point, you can ask for your deferred sentence to be expunged. Pros of that, it's available immediately after completion of your deferred sentence. And other cases that you have, old felonies, other misdemeanors, they don't affect whether you can get that deferred sentence expunged. There's no filing fee for a deferred sentence expungement. Your records get updated for free with OSBI, and the case disappears from OSCN. One caveat there, if you had co-defendants on the case won't fully disappear, but your name won't be on it anymore. Again, deferred sentence expungements are pretty powerful, a little bit easier than the other type of expungement I'm going to be talking about. Negative is that they're not automatic. Just because your deferred sentence expires doesn't mean it's just going to go away. If you're outside of Oklahoma County, you may need to get an attorney to help you file that motion to get it dismissed and expunged. Additionally, it doesn't seal arrest records with OSBI. Something is still going to show up on your OSBI report even after you get a deferred sentence expungement. And to be clear, expungement in Oklahoma means sealing, not destroying or erasing. So even after you get your deferred sentence expungement, law enforcement agencies will still be able to see it. It's possible if you get pulled over, the cop pulling you over may still be able to see it, but the public can't, prospective employers can't, but it's still very helpful. So let's say that you finish your deferred sentence here in Oklahoma County and you paid everything off. What do you do now? In Oklahoma County, the DA's office is kind enough, they do a lot of this work for you. You go into their office, there's like a one-page form, but you only fill out about a third of the page on it. And you fill out your contact information, what the case number is, and asking them to dismiss and expunge your deferred. The DA's office does all that legwork for you. They write up the motion, give it to the judge signs off, and then it disappears from OSCN. I'm not sure whether they mail a copy of that order to you or whether you need to come back to the clerk's office. But bottom line, in Oklahoma County, after you complete your deferred, no application to accelerate pending, everything's paid off on it, you go to the DA's office, fill out a form, and take care of dismissing your deferred sentence. In other counties, typically I've seen the DA put the burden on you. You might try talking to your former defense attorney. Again, these are pretty straightforward. They're easier, probably cheaper than Section 18 expungements. And again, I mentioned legal aid. Our services are free. If we have availability to help you, we definitely will if you qualify. And again, we won't charge anything for our services there. We might be able to file that. I know we don't so much in Oklahoma County office does some of those, and local offices, depending on their availability, are able to help with them too. I'll also tell you, if you're applying it for assistance with an expungement elsewhere in the state, all of our legal aid offices are connected. Go ahead and say Ed Wunch has information about helping with that. If the local office isn't familiar with how to do a deferred sentence expungement, I would love for them to do the legwork and I'll help them write everything up. Again, deferred sentence expungements, pretty simple. You just need to go ahead and let it expire, have everything paid off, and there you go. what's it look like? So here's an example of an OSBI report where there's still a deferred sentence on before it expires or before the expungement takes effect. Shows up here and it says you plead guilty. You can see below that it says that you had a deferred sentence of 5 years. So that's what it looks like without the deferred sentence expungement. Like I said, it's still going to stay on there, but after it's updated with the deferred sentence expungement, this is what it's going to say. Notice there's no more guilty plea on it. It says pled not guilty, case dismissed. No mention of deferred. Or your guilty plea on that case is erased. Tell a prospective lawyer, like after you get this done, you know, I didn't plead guilty because the judge let you take that back as part of the process. You weren't actually there to rescind your plea or whatnot, but the way the law looks at it, after a deferred sentence is expunged, you basically pled not guilty, the case was dismissed. Employers won't pick up on this, attorneys can pick up on this. I see that this case was filed in 2003 and then it was pled not guilty, dismissed in 2008. I can figure out that was a deferred sentence beforehand, but it's still a very positive change because there's no more guilty plea on it. So again, I was talking about deferred sentence expungements and understanding your record because those are things you can do right now, potentially without an attorney. Section 18 expungements are the more powerful type of expungement, but they can be a bit harder because of technicalities and restrictions and a lot more legwork. This is a pretty robust summary of the expungement process. That said, again, if you have a lawyer assisting you, the lawyer's going to do a lot of this work. This is just peeling back the curtain so you understand what's happening. What's your lawyer working on? Why is my lawyer saying that I don't qualify? Understand some of these technicalities to help you understand the process better. So why is it called the Section 18 expungement? It's based in Title 22, Section 18 of the Oklahoma statutes. As I mentioned before, expungement in Oklahoma does not mean erasing records. It means sealing records. And for Section 18, that means sealing arrest records as well, including court records. Prosecutors and law enforcement can still access those records. And I also want to put a big caveat in here. You may still need to disclose this to the feds. If you're applying for any sort of adjustment of your immigration status or applying for a security clearance, those firms are going to say on there, you have to disclose expunged records. They're still going to have access to them. I would disclose and explain that it was expunged. And that's in the case of the federal government. They're asking about what happened with your Oklahoma criminal cases. So what do you do to get it? You file a whole new civil court case. Usually when I'm filing these cases, it would be, if it was my own criminal records, it would be Ed Wunch v. State of Oklahoma, as opposed to State of Oklahoma v. Ed Wunch in the criminal case. So Ed Wunch v. State of Oklahoma, and then I'm going to go ahead and lay out all the reasons why I think I qualify for expungement. If I'm successful, the criminal case gets sealed and my expungement case also gets sealed. That would make very little sense, right? If you get your criminal case sealed, but then they can just look at your expungement case and see what happened. Thing is here that you have to notify all law enforcement agencies who are involved in the criminal case, file your Section 18 expungement. So that's going to be the arresting agency, the prosecuting agency, county sheriff, and OSBI has to get notified that you're filing a Section 18 expungement. I'm putting that out there to let you know that's happening. If you're working with a lawyer, they're doing all that for you. Section 18 expungements are county specific. If you have cases in Canadian County and Oklahoma County, like a old misdemeanor in Canadian County and a felony in Oklahoma County, that would be two separate expungement cases. Right now in Section 18, there's 15 types of situations that are covered by Section 18. It's not going to be every situation, and we'll cover some of the common limits a little bit later on. I highly recommend you get an attorney to assist you with these because basically there's a few spots you can go wrong, and if you do go wrong, then you're going to wind up with this failed expungement that's sitting out there in addition to your criminal records. So what do Section 18 expungement cost? A lot of people ask me, okay, what's the dollar figure? Some people will say $1,000, $2,000. A lot of that is probably going to be the attorney fee. These are the fixed costs where if an attorney quotes you a flat rate and says you don't have to pay any additional fees, here's some of the things that your attorney has to pay out of that fee that you're giving them. If you haven't already got the OSBI report and they're getting one, that's $15 for the OSBI report. The court filing fee is $154.14. And that can actually go up by about $10 if you have an attorney on the case. After the expungement granted, the law OSBI requires OSBI to collect a $150 fee from you to process the expungement order. And then some cities also charge fees for processing an expungement order. Actually, not too many cities have that fee. Oklahoma City, though, is one of the cities that has that. So again, you're arrested by Oklahoma City PD, Oklahoma County DA charges you, now you file for expungement, you get your expungement, you're paying all of these fees, including a $150 fee to the city of Oklahoma City for them to clear out for them to seal your arrest records. Additionally, there's going to be mailing costs, attorney's costs. I mentioned here at the bottom, if legal aid's assisting you with expungement, those fees that you see there, basically all that you have. We're not charging you mailing costs or attorney's costs. But as far as the court filing fee, if we're not able to get that waived, we can't get the OSBI fee waived, we can't get the City of Oklahoma City fee waived. Those are going to be a barrier for some people. That's one of the reasons why organizations that are stepping up in the community, like the Urban League, to go ahead and assist on these cases, organizations may be able to support you in those fees, but that's what's out there. Additionally, I want to flag the fact here that for the attorney's costs, some expungement attorneys won't charge you to review to see if you qualify. Because I can tell you for every one expungement that I do, I probably got another 1, 2, 3 where I've reviewed a report and found out someone didn't qualify. If I was a private attorney in private practice, I have to keep the lights on somehow. They're charging the people that do qualify fees to go ahead and help keep the lights on for all of those cases that they're reviewing where someone didn't qualify. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's better in some ways because of the fact that they're not leading you on if you don't qualify. But again, that's just some of the costs that go in here. So what's the typical timeline? I'm giving you an example here. This is going to vary by the attorney and based on the complexity of the case, but this is an example. I'm normally going to need about 30 days to review an OSBI report, to go ahead and check court records and draft pleadings on an expungement case. Again, none of those individual steps takes too long, but I want to make sure I get it right. And that's what that initial period is. Once the case is filed, many expungement attorneys will schedule a hearing. That's going to be based on the judge's availability. It has to be at least 30 days out. Oftentimes I see judges set these about 45 to 60 days out. You notice there I say most cases will not actually have a hearing. Peeling back the curtain, you want to know why I schedule a hearing? Because it puts a deadline on the law enforcement agencies to get back to me. If they don't look at it before that hearing, they're probably going to think about showing up. And so that's why a hearing is scheduled. Again, law enforcement agencies have 30 days to respond to an expungement. Typically, what most expungement attorneys will have done is filing an expungement case. I've already looked at this, and I think you qualify. And if you qualify, law enforcement doesn't usually object. And so what I would do is I would send along a proposed order granting the expungement to the law enforcement agencies. The law enforcement agency signing that agreed order has no effect until a judge signs it. But if all of the law enforcement agencies agree, including Oklahoma County DA's office is usually good about getting back to me, City of Oklahoma City is good about getting back to me, OSBI is great about getting back to me. Once they all sign off, If none of them are objecting and they've all signed off on your agreed expungement order, I can usually just slip in when the judge has a minute or drop it in the judge's inbox. They see that all the law enforcement agencies have already signed off. And again, that's why there's not a hearing. The judge just signs off, your expungement is granted, the case gets sealed, the criminal cases get sealed on OSCN, the civil case, the expungement case gets sealed, your expungement is done without a hearing. In many cases, that happens before the scheduled hearing date. And again, after that, you have to send the expungement order along with $150 to OSBI for processing. They're not going to tell you, yes, we did it. They do, based on my experience knowing people over at OSBI, they'll process that expungement order. But if you want to see that your record's now clear, that case doesn't show up anymore, you would have to pay another $15 to get another copy of your report to show that it's clear. I mentioned there are 15 types of expungement under Section 18. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is why expungement cases take a bit of time to analyze for attorneys, because I need to figure out what category you fit in and if you've met all of the qualifications. Additionally, these categories are changed fairly frequently. Fortunately, in the past couple of years, they've been broadened and the wait periods have been reduced and things like that. But it does lead to some odd situations here where just in the drafting processes, they're trying to make it easier here. You wind up with things like in the left-hand column here, I highlighted pardon because we're going to get to pardons in a little bit, but look two below that. The crime was committed when you were under 18 and you were pardoned. So don't people who committed a crime when they were under 18 and pardoned just qualify under the pardon category? Yep, they do. It's left over. They were trying to loosen up these restrictions, and so you wind up with something here where there's no one that's going to file under the crime was under 18 and pardon category anymore because there's just a pardon category. If you look in the law, though, you'll still see both of them. Again, these are the oversights that somehow happen. It doesn't hurt anything, but this is just one of the things that happens here. I also want to warn you, this screen is a summary. In each category, there's very specific language you have to meet. Many of them require you not to have pending charges or other cases, and there are also waiting periods for several categories. I tried to list those on screen. The waiting periods may mean that you apply for help from legal aid, I go ahead and take a look at your case, and I say, I'm sorry, we can't help you right now because you don't qualify. Why don't you come back in a year? What does that mean? That means probably that your waiting period has to runs in a year. I'm going to be able to tell you when your waiting period ends because it's set in statute when your waiting period ends, but I can't do anything to change that waiting period. I'm going to give you an example of just the complexity here. Again, don't worry about this. This is the analysis that an attorney on the case would do for you. So again, this is the category. It's listed in Section 18, Section 812. That category is the person was convicted of a nonviolent felony offense, not listed in Section 571 of Title 57 of the Oklahoma statutes, not been convicted of any other felony, person's not been convicted of a separate misdemeanor in the last 7 years, no felony or misdemeanor charges pending against the person, and at least 5 years have passed since the completion of the sentence for the felony conviction. A lot of language there. What does that mean? There's 5 criteria you have to meet in order to get one felony conviction expunged. What are the 5 criteria? Number 1, it has to be a nonviolent felony. Number 2, you can't have another felony conviction. Number 3, you can't have conviction of a misdemeanor in the last 7 years before applying for the expungement. Number 4, no charges are pending against you. And number 5, you wait 5 years after you finish your sentence. Like I said, if you're working with an attorney, they're going to figure all this out for you. But this is one of the reasons why I recommend an attorney, because as you can see, just for expunging one case here, it's pretty complex. That said, Section 18 is really powerful. You can file one expungement case and expunge multiple criminal cases with one expungement case. That said, each criminal case has to qualify. Just because you're filing expunge a simple possession case doesn't mean you automatically get to include an armed robbery. You have to look at the cases individually. Additionally, again, you have to deal with each county individually. Very complicated expungement cases are possible in Section 18. So I give you an example here. You completed a misdemeanor deferred sentence in the 90s, but then you had a felony conviction that you completed in 2010. All are now paid off, nothing else pending, all in Oklahoma County. Normally, that misdemeanor, you can expunge it because subsequent felony conviction. But it looks to me, based on these facts, like I might be able to expunge that felony conviction. So what do? I file an expungement case asking for expungement of the felony. And then in the same case, I say, hey, judge, once you've done that, you can expunge this misdemeanor. So let's just do both at the same time. So again, Section 18 is really powerful, but it takes an attorney sometimes to figure out whether you qualify and how to fit all these pieces together. Here's some really good news. All charges in one case count as one conviction for expungement purposes. So you didn't see anything on there that said 7 felonies and you had one felony case where you had 7 counts in it and you pled to all of them, they served concurrently, you just did a year, but you think that's 7 felonies. No, Section 18 says 1 CF case, 1 CM case. In most cases, that is considered as one felony conviction. You could have 100 counts in one felony case, and you usually look at the most serious one and most serious count. And if that qualifies, that's one felony for expungement purposes. I want to highlight here specifically one section in Section 18, and I call that the State Question 780 felony conviction expungements. After State Question 780 passed, the legislature added an option to expunge old felony convictions on cases that would now be misdemeanors. In most cases, those are simple possession. That's not possession with intent. That's not trafficking. That's not possession in a school zone, I don't believe. Simple possession, and then property crime cases where the value of the property at issue was less than $1,000. Most of those cases are now misdemeanors after State Question 780. And under that section of Section 18, you can get those old felonies that would now be misdemeanors, you can get those expunged. That applies even if you have other felony convictions. That's pretty powerful because most of the sections require you not to have other felony convictions. That's not a requirement for the State Question 780 felony conviction expungements. One warning is there, of course, if you can get those felony convictions expunged, but let's say you do have those other felonies, your OFBI report after you get the simple possession expunged is still going to say convicted felon based on the other felony convictions. So that's all the powerful things that Section 18 can do. Here's some of the common challenges, though, I see. Unpaid fines and costs. If you have unpaid fines and costs in a case, usually one of the law enforcement agencies would object to you getting an expungement until everything's paid. That said, in general, paying off your fines doesn't factor into the waiting periods. So, for example, it's been the required number of years since you got out of jail or prison, you finished your probation, and you thought you paid everything off, but there's $5 left on the case or something like that. Law enforcement doesn't really care as long as everything's paid. So you could pay that $5 today and file your expungement tomorrow. But I also wanted to give you some other options. Let's say that you owe $20,000. What do you do then? You're never going to be able to pay that off. So there are some options. If you went to DOC on the case, the legislature added a statute back in 2016 where if you did time in DOC, then after you get out, you make 24 timely monthly payments. You can potentially ask the judge for those to be only $10 or $25. And after you've made those 24 monthly payments, then you can get the remaining balance on the case waived. I've had a couple of cases where I've gotten over $20,000 waived for someone. I think I had an over 50,000. I'd have to check my notes, but it's possible. It's limited to people that did time on DOC on the case. Again, it's an option though out there. If you've got 20,000 on it though, and you're thinking I'm never going to get an expungement, these are the sorts of things you look at. Additionally, if you're disabled or indigent, the judge has an option to relieve you of your fines and costs under Rule 8.5 of the Court of Criminal Appeals. I'll tell you, the judge in Oklahoma County that reviews those cases typically doesn't waive fines other than in the DOC case that I was mentioning earlier. Typically under Rule 8.5, she might set your payments to $0 a month and tell you to come back in a couple of years to just check in. But bottom line, you still have outstanding fines, and so you're not eligible for expungement. I have seen fines waived under Rule 8.5 in other cases. Again, thousands of dollars of fines in some cases for some people that are on Social Security, disability, or SSI, or people who are elderly and haven't had a lot of income over the past several years. It's an option. Cost of expungement. Again, it's a great option, but there are some costs in there that we can't do anything about. That's why if you can find partner agencies, other nonprofits that can help you out paying those costs, that can help you overcome that barrier of just the raw dollar figures it takes to file for expungement. If you have two counties that you've dealt with, that you've got your convictions in, Canadian County, Oklahoma County, then even if they're all eligible for expungement, you'd need to file in both those counties. And that would mean the $150 for OSBI for each county and the filing fee for each county. And again, I mentioned Oklahoma City charges $150 along with a few other municipalities. Another common barrier, 3 or more felony convictions. You have 3 steps, and you asked me to help you with an expungement. I'm going to take a real close look, but it's not going to look real hopeful if you've got convictions in all 3 of those. Additionally, I typically am only looking at your OSBI report just because that catches most things for me. If you're working with an expungement attorney and you have convictions in another state, or you were convicted in federal court at any point, raise that with your expungement attorney. They might not catch it otherwise until you raise it, but law enforcement will. I've definitely seen it where the Oklahoma County DA pulls your NCIC report from the FBI when you apply for expungement, and they catch that out-of-state conviction. And then I thought it was going to be smooth sailing, but with that out-of-state couple other felonies, now all of a sudden you don't qualify. In those sorts of complicated cases, I don't know what the expungement laws are in all the other states and how to get those resolved, but it is something here where if you know that you have convictions in other states, raise it, because you might think it would slide by. There's a chance it will, but especially the Oklahoma County DA, OSBI are good at catching those things. If you do have 3 or more felony convictions, don't give up hope here. Try for a pardon. Again, that unlocks, if you get a pardon on a case, you qualify for an expungement. So before I wrap up here, let's talk about pardons. As I mentioned, pardons unlock expungements. You don't need a pardon to get an expungement, but if there's no other avenue, that's what I'm looking at. It also restores other options for you, firearm ownership, serving on juries, lots of other rights come back when you get felonies pardoned. It's free. It's free to apply for a pardon. The application's on the Pardon Parole Board's website. You don't need an attorney to file for one, and there's real minimal cost to get certain required attachments. I think you need to get certified copies of judgment and sentences in the cases that you're trying to get pardoned, and the court clerks are going to charge you $10 or something. I mean, it's not going to be much. You need to get a credit report. There's a few things you need to get. Additionally, it's 6 to 12 months for the Pardon Parole Board to really process that and for the governor to review your pardon application. But the good news is here that if you try for a pardon and something comes up, you forgot about to include something, and they stick on it, think that you were trying to conceal it or something like that, you can reapply for a pardon 12 months after you get denied. And again, it's free. So it's a good option if you've got nothing else available to you. I want to be real here, though. They can be tough to get. Pardons can be tough to get while you're trying to get back on your feet. You are giving them a credit report and a lot of other information. They're going to look a lot at what you've done since your criminal case. So if you're still struggling finding work or paying bills, it's possible that you won't get a pardon just because you're still struggling. I would like to think that they might overlook that if you can explain it well enough, but I want to be realistic here. If you're still struggling, a pardon might be tough to get in that circumstance. That is one of the scenarios, though, where if you think it's going to be tough because, hey, you just filed bankruptcy last year, or something else came up that you know it's going to take some explaining, that might be a situation where you consider hiring an attorney. I would say that unlike expungements, though, where pretty much if you qualify, it's going to go through, pardons, it's not that. It's a lot more discretionary. If you were to catch the Pardon and Parole Board on a bad day and they don't recommend you for a pardon, there's not anything an attorney can really do about that. Like I said, this is sort of a last resort here. Someone doesn't qualify for an expungement. This is what I do. So with that, I think I'm ready to move on to the questions here. Before that, though, I want to put our number and our website on screen. We do expungements. Unfortunately, we don't even dedicated to expungement, so we have to balance that with all of our other cases, and we can't take every case. We also have qualifying conditions, specifically, generally you have to be under 200% of the federal poverty level, but I don't want to discourage anyone from applying. Apply for our help if you need help with an expungement, and then we'll figure out to see if we can help you. We want to help as many people as we can. Additionally, the Urban League Clinic is looking like it's going to be great. Lorenzo here, he's amazing. If he's able to go ahead and work on your expungement case, I mean, again, I probably am going to get some tips from him after this because he's just really great. It is something where if you need help getting an expungement, I encourage you to reach out to those organizations in the community that might be able to provide you with free assistance to do that, because it can be expensive to hire an attorney. If you are able to, there's nothing wrong with paid attorneys, and I hope that this information was just helpful to, again, lift back the curtain so you can understand what's going on with an expungement case. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, thanks so much, Ed. And yes, just want to, on behalf of the Urban League and the team sort of working with me, want to really thank you for your time. And we're at like 2 o'clock, so we want to make sure to run through questions quick, but to grab his information, because we will help channel and follow up on those things. And then Lorenzo will close us out with a few comments about next steps. Getting us your information, because we are wanting to process you through the expungement process, or at least see if the expungement process is available to you. I'm also going to put in the chat, as you all are asking questions and Lorenzo follows up, information about the Urban League's Young Adult Reentry Program. So we have a reentry program for those who are 18 to 24 and have been justice involved. I'm just going to leave the number in the chat for you to call. But if you need help getting your GED or work readiness skills or work experience, Olivet Brothers, who allowed me to, really use her department's Zoom today, she is overseeing that program. And if you're 18 to 24 justice involved, we have help for you. We can help you get your GED, get on to some college skills, or get some skill-based learning, whether that be college or other skill-based learning that might help you professionally, but ultimately help you get a job. We want to get people moved to and through this process, or this criminal justice process, onto a better quality of life. So take it away if y'all have any questions for Ed. Any questions?
All right.
Okay, Lorenzo.
Sorry, Jabar, you got this trial lawyer jumping in here. Hopefully I'm not jumping in too early. Are there any other questions before I start rambling for the next few minutes?
Lorenzo, I see one in the chat. I'm just going to chime in. There's something asking for the cost for fully paid expungement, say for 3 counties. Again, just on the filing fees and things like that, you're looking at least $900. I mean, for the filing fee, I mean, that's alone before an attorney makes $1 on your case. And so again, if you can get help from an organization, and again, every attorney is going to set their own fees. I would encourage you, if you're going to go ahead and consider hiring an attorney, to interview a couple of different attorneys, shop around, ask them what their experience is, and see who's better. I can't give you an estimate on what the attorney is going to charge, but I would encourage you to reach out to nonprofit organizations that are offering free assistance that can either assist with some of those filing fees, or at least cut out that attorney cost for you. With that, I know we're out of time, and so I'm going to turn it over to you, Lorenzo.
You're so kind. All right. Well, forgive me. Hopefully I'm not filibustering the conversation. And can I get a thumbs up if everybody can hear me? We good? Are we good? All right. Awesome. First of all, I want to thank Ed. Goodness, I feel like I should have paid for this because this was a CLE. I learned some stuff here. Even as a practicing lawyer, I've been doing this 10 years, ladies and gentlemen. So to kind of introduce myself, I am Lorenzo Banks. I am one of the partners in Banks Gillette. We are, in fact, I am so blessed and honored to be the lawyer who is spearheading this. I'm the lead attorney on this Expungement Expo for the Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City. One of the things, a couple of things I just kind of wanted to go over very quickly. I mean, goodness, Ed, I had no idea about the statute with, so I'm going to be using that. Thank you, brother, about being able to essentially ask the judge with 24 qualified payments to wipe the rest of that balance clear. Who knew? Thank goodness for the collaboration of smart individuals throughout the state of Oklahoma for the benefit of people. Very quickly, like Ed so eloquently put it, we've got two types of expungements. We've got the one that is the 991C that Ed so eloquently put. Yes, it's going to be right after you get done with your deferred sentence. At my law firm, I call it the baby expungement, right? It takes it out. It takes it out for the court clerk files, and as well as off OSC. And that's great. But if they pull that background check, it's going to pop up. What we're doing today, what we're doing up until June 26th, is what I call the super expungement, the Section 1819 expungement, which is not only going to seal the record at the courthouse, which is not only going to take it off of OSCN, but it seals your criminal background even with the FBI, since the OSBI is a direct reporting agency. So with a super expungement, and as Ed also so eloquently put it, these things cost thousands of dollars. I charge thousands of dollars to do it privately. What does that mean? That means that I need your complete and total and full cooperation. So, an age-old adage of please help me help you, right? Help me help you. Here's some next few steps for those who are in this queue to get your record expunged. And I'm going to talk here in just a couple seconds about what you can direct other folks who you believe may qualify. First things first, please check your email. Please check your email, right? Number two, answer your phone. Okay, it is really hard to work for you and do this super expungement for you and the people that you know if you won't answer your emails and you won't answer your phone. Can't do anything. Why? Because the third thing I'm going to tell you is that a lawyer is going to contact you. It'll either be myself or another one of the lawyers here in the community who is going to be volunteering their time to help you and others here in Oklahoma County get their records expunged. Another thing that you need to prepare yourself for is that I'm going to ask you to come to a certain place at some time to sign the stuff that we're drafting up for you. So be amenable to that, right? I can't get this super expungement for you if you won't jump in the car or catch the bus or come do something, get down to the place that we have allotted for you to come and sign your documents, so we can get them over to the court clerk's office and the district attorney's office and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and the arresting agency, because like my man Ed put so eloquently, it's a lot of folks and a lot of steps in this particular expungement process. Some of you may or may not qualify. That's okay, right? If you don't qualify after all of my combing through your records and things, it's okay. Like Ed said, especially now, I feel like I need to Venmo Ed like $50 or something for this CLE, right? Because there is a path toward expungement. It may be a few months, it may be some years, but don't be discouraged. We plan on trying to do this again. So even if this is not your first bite at the apple, you don't make it, let's try again. Certainly under the direction and the advice of one of the lawyers who will be talking to you. Some of you all will get me, some of you all will get other lawyers. And last and certainly not least, I want you to make sure that if you know anybody who you feel might be wanting to get their record expunged, please direct them our way. 3 requirements, 3, right? First, they've got to have cases in Oklahoma County. It's not that I don't love folks who got charged in Grady County or Okfuskee County or Tulsa County, but I'm sorry, we're not handling those. We're only handling cases that are in Oklahoma County. So they got to have Oklahoma County cases. The second thing is that they've got to be off of probation. Right? They can't currently be on probation for the alleged crimes that they are now trying to get expunged, right? So make sure that they know that the requirement is that they're off of probation. And that's not just supervised probation. That means that if you were on supervised probation for 2 years, but you had a 5-year deferred or your 5-year suspended sentence, that's still probation. It may not be supervised, but it's probation. You got to wait till that whole thing runs, right? And last and certainly not least, all court costs, fines, fees, hold on, 2 big ones, restitution and probation costs. Everything when it comes to money on the case that's supposed to come from you has been paid off. If those 3 things are present for people that you know in Oklahoma, please direct them our way. So I know you're saying, well, Lorenzo, you're sending me all these emails. How do I do that? I'm so glad you asked. It's like you knew my presentation before I got on here today. First, you can very much send me an email at, and you know what? Hold on, look. I'm going to utilize this fancy technology here, and I'm going to put it in the chat to everybody, right? I've got my email address, expunge@bggokc.com. Shoot me an email, and I'm going to have you fill out a questionnaire. If you don't feel comfortable sending stuff to Lorenzo, I don't know why. I'm going to know all your business, so I'm leading this thing. But just in case you don't feel comfortable sending this directly to Lorenzo, there is a link at the bottom of that chat, of my message in the chat, that goes directly to the Urban League's questionnaire, which is, you'll come to find out, it's identical to mine. If you know anybody who you feel meets these 3 criteria, please shoot them this information. Have them either send me an email at expunge@bggokc.com or okay, and so I sent the link there, but Jabar's letting me know he'd rather go and have people go to urbanleagueok.org. I went ahead and did it. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
You can send it any place. I follow the advice of the lawyer. I'm just trying to, as he's talking, make sure to I don't want anyone to leave and say, I don't know what to do next. So that's all. But follow Lorenzo, and as a backup, if nothing else, take that down and we'll get you where you need to go.
And certainly last and not least, we plan on having our big Expungement Expo June 26th of this year. So part of your requirements for getting your expungement under this program is that you got to attend the function, right? So clear your calendars, mark your calendars. Let's get ready. We're going to have a great time. But aside from having a great time, we're going to do great things for not only people like you, but other folks here in the state of Oklahoma. I'm so grateful to have all of you on this call today. Thank you for dealing with my very nagging and insistent emails and phone calls, but I'm not doing it for the sake of being a jerk. I'm doing it for you and the folks at the Urban League. Thank you all so much. And with that, as a trial lawyer, I'm going to do something that doesn't happen often. I'm going to shut up.
Great. Hey, I just want to end by thanking you all for taking the time to join. I've been checking. We may or may not have been able to broadcast this out for Facebook Live. We're going to rebroadcast it on the Urban League's Facebook Live website so that you can go back and look at this and catch any information that you missed. Again, I want to thank our County Commissioner, Carrie Blumert, our State Representative, Representative AJ Pittman. I have to say, I have never worked with two more, not just giving, but very concerned and involved elected officials in my entire career of public service. Whenever you call either one of those ladies, they return the call. And whenever you have an idea to help people, they're like, where can I fit in and do my part in my role? So I'm so thankful. And then as well, I want to say to Francie and to Megan and to Lorenzo and to Ed, you all are phenomenal. We got a bunch of people ready to help you all. Just let us know where we can step in, okay? You all have a great Saturday and enjoy. It's 2:12, so we returned a little bit of your time back to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank